It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Hello, children of the night. Welcome back to Blood and Guts Creature Features. With me, as always, Mad Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Well, Evil Adam, I've been slacking, kind of like one of our favorite characters in one of our all-time favorite movies,
That's
which
right.
we'll be covering tonight, and that's the great movie Shaun of the Dead. But
That's-
how about you? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. And much like the characters in Shaun of the Dead, I could sure go for a cold frosty brew right now.
Yeah.
So,
Have a pint. Wait for all this
wait
to
for
blow
this
over.
blow right over. That's right. So let's go ahead and kick it off. We're talking about Shaun of the Dead tonight. It's been a long time coming, but this is both of our favorites.
Yes.
One of our favorites. But we can't really talk about Shaun of the Dead without first talking a little bit about Spaced, which came out in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And Spaced, as you know, is a comedy. Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, all those cats, and then you'll see a lot of the reoccurring characters from the films in the show as well.
Done cameos and good stuff like that. Yep.
And it's just such a great comedy, but it has elements of horror. It has elements of sci-fi and noir. And I mean, if you like the Cornetto trilogy, you're really going to like Spaced. And we have to touch on the episode where his character is playing Resident Evil,
Yep.
and he's had a little bit too much speed. So he's having a little bit of a trip, and he thinks that his roommates and neighbors are zombies.
Yep.
And the great part about this, we're going to put a clip in here, is parts of it were shot first-person POV, like a first-person shooter game, where the camera's on the end of the gun, and he's taking out his neighbors who he thinks are zombies.
Yeah.
And they use, for a television series, they use quite a bit of blood in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they had the original idea to do a zombie film. And that's kind of the brainchild of Shaun of the Dead. And, that legend, so much good stuff came from this show.
It did. Like I said, it was a fantastic show. And what I love about like how you touched on how they got that idea, like not Simon Pegg, but Edgar Wright actually talked about how in an interview that they used it for Space, but they said all of it coming up a night where there was at Nick Frost's house, him and Shaun, or not Shaun, but him and Simon and Nick, and they're all drinking. And it's like, you know what? We can do our own Romero zombie movie. We can do like Resident Evil.
Yep.
And just thinking, like I said, just from a good night of drinking, we get this classic movie that we're about to talk about.
Oh, yeah. And there's also, I was watching the interview today with Simon Pegg where he's going back and talking about the film and how the Winchester pub, which is a major setting in the film, is based on a real place. And I looked it up. It's called the Shepherd's Pub in Highgate. And that's where they would go, which was kind of a ratty place. And all their friends and their girlfriends would get mad, kind of like they do in the film. And try to get them to go out and do like a fancy dinner or a nice place or a nice club.
Right.
But they would always somehow end up, the two of them, at this same ratty place, because it was their Winchester, but they didn't really want to leave it.
So it's inspired by a true story, apparently.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a good little interview. If you go on there and Google him discussing his characters on, I think it was GQ, you'll find that interview. But it was really good. And, once again, to reference Romero has a lot to do with this film.
Yes, he does.
If you'll notice the opening crazy, spooky sound effects and things, that's the same score from Dawn of the Dead, which was done by Goblin. Mm-hmm. And if you watched our Dawn of the Dead episode, you know that Goblin did the score and a lot of those weird ambient sound effects for Dawn of the Dead. They used some of those in here as well. And then I've jotted down a few more. There's Bub's Pizza is in the background. So, that's a reference to Day of the Dead. 4A, he works at 4A Electrics, which is, Ken Foray. So there's a lot of Romero steeped all throughout this film. And I think that, their love for George Romero classics really brought this, to a boil here and made it a great film.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Friends and Fiends, obviously, this movie is now just celebrated its 20th anniversary, so it's going on 21 years old. But if you've not seen it, going to be some spoilers in this because,
Yeah, we hope you've seen it.
We hope you've seen it.
Please go watch it. Stop this and go watch it.
But just a quick plot synopsis if you if you haven't seen it in a while. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's basically about a slacker who's in his late 20s, doesn't know what he wants to do in his life. Like I said, Mitchie, he takes his girlfriend to the same pub night after night because he just doesn't want to take that next step into his life. And the beauty of the movie is how things are just slowly turning. Like you see just people just acting kind of weird, homeless people like chasing birds, biting birds.
Yeah.
And even when they go to the pub that night after him and Liz break up, they're like, there's people getting eaten in the streets, but they're so drunk, they're oblivious to it.
Yeah.
And it just evolves from there to where it's just mass chaos, to where then all of a sudden he actually does want to step up, save the day, go to the Winchester and get locked down, and they fight off hordes of zombies. And like I said, it's just a fantastic movie. If you've not seen it, like Adam said, stop this video, go watch it, and then come back. But for those that have seen it, we'll continue on. One thing you mentioned that I had to piggyback off of in that beginning too is that opening score. Once it kicks into the song "Death Wrath," and or not, excuse me, not "Death Wrath," but what I have it here. It's "Death Wrath."
Yeah.
So I love how he choreographed that to where they're moving with the beat of the song, and everybody's almost like mindless zombies, and how it's kind of like homaging to that. How
your daily life.
Yes.
Grocery stores, checkout
Mundane,
lines, cabs, buses.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And then what I love to piggyback back off of that is every time that you never really find out, in true Romero fashion, you never really find out what caused the thing. Every time a character goes to tell you, or it gets explained on the TV or the radio, some channel changes, something else happens, and they did that on purpose, kind of like the Romero films, where it never really truly tells you what was the catalyst of the outbreak.
I know Night of the Living Dead, the original one, it does explain it, but I know Romero said that was his biggest regret. That's why in Dawn of the Dead he retcons that.
Day just rolls right into it. Yeah.
So, but no, you're exactly right. They done that, and it was well played on how they do that, and.
With the news segments that cut, and those are real news anchors too, by the way, that play it. So they got real news anchors involved to do the you must remove the heads and destroy the brains. Like that whole thing is just great.
Man, I like just keep talking about that. Like, I love too the camaraderie between him and Nick Frost. Obviously, we talked about how they all work together in space, but like that relationship between Shaun and Ed is just like the backbone of this movie.
It's so great.
And like I said, just
they're playing Time Splitters. Well. I think it's Time Splitters 2 at that time. I can't remember exactly, but it's 1 or 2. But that's a game that my brother and I would play a lot, and still to this day, he recently found them somewhere, and we love that. But if you notice that scene where they're playing the game, he's telling him what to do. Aim for the head.
Top left.
Yeah. That kind of thing is referenced later in the Winchester during the shootout with the legendary gun.
Right.
But that's such a great. And we were like, man, he's playing time split. Like it shows the screen briefly, but you hear the player 1 has entered the game. And you hear all this.
Yeah.
It's like he's playing Time Splitters, man.
What's beautiful about this movie too is it's a for a horror movie, it's actually got a pretty decent budget for back then. It's actually $6 million, and that just kind of goes to show how investors really believed in Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright based on the show's Space, like we were talking about.
Yeah,
that was so popular, had a cult following, they were able to secure that funding. But this movie here is so polished. And like we were talking about, like just leave the game and just kind of going through back to the mundane life. You think about that one shot of him walking through the street, going to the market.
Yep, and he doesn't even look at the people who are on the street.
Right.
Doesn't even make eye contact.
He's oblivious to everything.
You're just used to this same thing every day. You walk to the store, you buy a Diet Coke, you leave the store, you go back to your house. It's the same thing. So you don't even make eye contact with the people that pass you by on the street. Yeah, and it's and even when they're zombies, he still doesn't notice.
That's the beauty of, like I said, you see that whenever like it's just regular normal life, and then when the outbreak happens, and he don't even realize how close he is to being eaten because of, I owe you $3.
Yeah. it's just such a great film, and I mean it's so well done, and I'm so glad that it spawned, the Hot Fuzz and the World's End and that type of stuff. But this one is just it's just one that you can watch every year, put it on once a year.
Because there's so many funny bits throughout the movie. Like this is one of the most quotable movies. Like we'll quote a lot.
Oh, we quote this all the time.
Yeah,
Big Lebowski. This one, several things. But this is one that I quote, and you quote quite a bit. So,
so speaking like quotable lines and quotable scenes, what is like one of your most favorite? Like what stands out the most scene wise in this movie for you?
Oh, so many. Pete. I do that one all the time, and God, of course, everybody does the classic "You got red on you," bit. But what is it? Wait for this whole thing to blow over. That's another great one. We're coming to get you, Barbara, which is of course the reference when he's on the phone,
Right.
And there's one I quote all the time in my personal life is because when he writes on the fridge, he's drunk, sort your life out, and then he falls back in the chair. That one is really classic.
Nah, all those are great too. I love the one where they're in the pub, crap's hitting the fan, the jukebox comes on. And
Who puts this on?
Yeah, he's giving everybody instructions, and he's like, "You kill the queen." But then when they go to kill the bartender, they're all in that queen song. They're all hitting him in tandem with the beat with the cue sticks. Like I said,
Yep.
I just love that.
It's on random. He's crying because this. I think it's what does Carpenters come on, or is it?
It's
Chicago. It's Chicago when he's crying at first.
Oh,
the one at first.
yeah.
When she's broke up with him.
Right.
And
It's on random.
it's Chicago. It's the band Chicago, and it's what is it? If You Leave Me Now, right, or something like that. And he's like, "Who put this on? It's on random." He's crying. I love that.
But, yeah, man, just so many. And there's just so many little tidbits in this movie, though. Kind of like when David gets ripped apart. Like I said, you got fantastic blood. That's what this movie's got. Everything. It's got comedy. It's got horror. It's got blood, gore, all that stuff. But watching his stomach getting ripped open, like was a homage, to Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead when you see that. But what makes it so much funnier is when Diane gets a severed limb and is chasing outside to try to get him back, but beating the zombies with his arms and his legs.
Yeah.
It's just crazy stuff like that. Just like I said, I can watch this movie over and over and over, and I just get tickled to death every time I see something like that.
And I believe that that's really a reference to Rhodes.
Yeah.
In Day, of course, obviously, without the choke on it, But I love that, and just the way it's set too is. It's got that good mix of part of the film is set in the daytime and part of the film has some nighttime shots as well to break it up. But it's a classic, and you really got to do yourself a favor and check it out.
You do, and like they're talking about, like you're talking about how Romero obviously heavily inspired him, but Romero loved this movie so much that he actually put Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright as a cameo in Land of the Dead. Remember, they're the zombies that are tied up.
And you got to look quick because the first time I watched Land, I was looking for them, and I was like, where the hell are they? And they're chained up, with the photo op. Get your picture taken with a zombie. Yep.
And that's like the ultimate respect right there, because you sit there, how Romero inspired them, and to actually know that the one that you love, the legend, loved your movie so much. Like, you know what? I want you to in my next zombie movie.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I think I would lose it if that happened. But yeah, it's just such a classic, man. And let me ask you this as a question. So obviously, like most of their films, lots and lots of good music.
Yes.
And I know you probably picked the Queen. Mm-hmm. Don't Stop Me Now.
Yeah.
But what other pieces of music do you like from the film that you can think of that come to your mind in the scenes?
Well, we already talked about it's like the opening scene but it's just playing the background music. But seeing that and like the choreography that goes with it and how everybody's just matching the beat, and like I said, it reminds me. It's part of what makes this movie timeless, because you just see everybody going through their mundane life and they're just going through the motions, and it's no different than today when you see people out and all they do is have their head down with their phones.
It's still so relevant.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, as far as music with actual lyrics stuff, Queen's my favorite one, but that opening scene, hearing that, just like I said, that's the one. It really pulls you into the movie, and lets you know that you're going to be in for a good time.
Yeah.
Now, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like that one a lot too. I like when I like when he's DJing, he's scratching.
Yeah,
it's 3 a.m, And
It's about Saturday.
yeah, that's great. This is the first record I ever bought.
Yeah.
You know,
I do love that scene too. He's going through all, throw it.
Throw it.
Batman soundtrack, get rid of it.
get rid of it. Yeah, it's so much good stuff in here with the makeup effects. That I was reading that they wanted the guy who obviously falls on the pole.
Yeah.
You know, and the pole's coming out of him. Later, there's a scene where, you know, he's walking and you see like I guess it's a tennis ball on the end.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like trailing,
Uh-huh.
bouncing around, like that kind of stuff. And I was going back to the interview with Simon Pegg where he's talking about they're all really, when you think about it, the zombies are really sad characters
Yeah.
because they lived a mundane life. Like the girls, the checkout girl.
Yeah, Mary, the checkout girl.
Yeah, and they died not having done anything.
Right.
So he's like, you know, that's the second kind of reason they didn't want them to be fast
Yeah.
was because they wanted to feel that kind of emotion from them and kind of have that in there. Which, I mean, this whole thing is just such a well-planned piece of film.
It is. I mean, that's what, like you're talking about the Cornetto trilogy, all of them are well thought out, well written,
Yeah.
storyboarded out, where you, like I said, everything just falls into line and makes perfect sense.
Yep.
But yeah, like this is just one movie I think about the marketing when it first come out, and it's one where I took Danielle, my wife, to go see it at the time we were dating, but the movie played about an hour and a half away from us. It didn't play anywhere near us because it had a limited release, and I had to try my best to explain to her because she hadn't seen anything. So she's like, "What are we going to watch?"
What are we going to see?
And she's like,
just go with me.
Yeah, I was like, it's called Shaun the Dead. She's, what is that? What's Shaun of the Dead?
What are you taking me
She's
to?
like, is it a comedy? And I was like, I think so. She goes, was it scary?
I think so.
Maybe. I was like, I said it looked good, and luckily when we went and watched it, it delivered because she loves the movie just as much as we do. And then whenever we went down to Horror Nights, you know, no plug intended, took my parents to go see it down there because they had the big theater in City Walk, and so got to go see it again.
Yep.
Everybody absolutely loved it. So it's one of those where you just happen. I think it was on Comedy Central's where I seen like the teaser trailers and stuff for it. I was like, I have to find a way to go watch this movie because it just looks hilarious.
Yeah, I'm trying to really think about the first time I ever really saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't quite remember, but I know I loved it. And I know that word of mouth, you know,
Right.
I probably told 10, 15 people, you have to watch this if they hadn't seen it already. And my brother, of course, who I rope into these kind of things.
Right.
You know, I was like, we got to watch this. We got to rent it. And it probably was a Redbox
Right.
type of deal, or even, maybe even a Netflix in the mail at that time. But, you know.
So let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to one of our other favorite segments.
Yeah.
You know, the movie itself, it's building up. It's in the pub. It keeps building up, and then they come outside. They get out of that storm, the storm entrance or the storm exit, and like boom, the army's there, knocks out all the zombies. So you build up, and boom, it's just an abrupt end.
Yeah.
Now, how did you feel when you first watched that? Did you actually enjoy that, or was it kind of jarring to you to see everything all of a sudden just come crashing down?
Yeah, I mean, it was jarring, but you knew there had to be the climax there.
Mm-hmm.
And what really ties it up with a nice bow, spoiler alert, is the fact that, you know, after that, you know, because I think that was meant to kind of jar you a little bit.
Right.
To set it up for the fact that now he's got his best friend in his shed. They're
Ed.
still playing the games. He's got his lady.
Yeah.
They did.
He sorted his life
He
out.
sorted his life out. They're in love. They're living up, albeit strange,
Yeah.
but good life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of, you know, you have to have that little pop of that quick violent flash at
Yeah.
the end to kind of set that up for the next scene.
I think you nailed that perfectly because I think, like you said, I think that's why he wanted to have it like come to a jarring conclusion right then, just so you can set things up there and be like, hey, guess what? Everything's okay.
Kind of okay.
Yeah, kind of okay.
Yeah, we got them.
It's an adjustment.
We got them on chains, pushing trolley carts around and shopping carts, and like, you know, we're trying to bring civilization back,
Uh-huh.
but everything's kind of okay.
Yeah. Well, moving right along then, Adam, come to one of your favorite segments, and what would that be?
This is one of our favorite segments. This is called the Parental Guide.
And who's it brought to you by?
This is brought to you by Karen. So what happens is Karen gets on the internet. She's had a little bit too much of red box wine. maybe, she's had a bad week at the McDonald's where she works. I don't know, wherever she works. And she's upset. So she's taken to the internet and she's written parental guide reviews online.
So you're lucky then, friends and fans. What we're going to do then, the parental guide reviews, we're going to give you our top 5. So kicking over to you, Adam, what do you have at number 5?
Number 5 for parental guide, written by Karen somewhere in the world. A main antagonist is disemboweled, dismembered, decapitated, and eaten alive by a horde of zombies, all on screen. This is the most graphic scene in the entire movie. Very disturbing.
You gotta love it. Number 4 then, moving right along. We got a man's abdomen is ripped out and eaten by several zombies.
Oh, no.
Surely not in a zombie movie.
No.
His head then falls off. And then is torn limb from limb. Shocking.
What kind of a world are we living in? Can't even go to the movie anymore.
Number 3.
Adults are shown drinking beer and liquor and smoking cigarettes.
Surely not.
2 men are shown to be clearly inebriated in one scene. Cigarettes are emphasized or glorified somewhat due to the context in which they are used.
Sounds like someone didn't watch the movie when he says he's going to quit smoking.
He's quitting smoking. He's at the pub. That they hang out at the pub. This is the catalyst for the breakup in the film. And especially in London, what do you think happens at the pub, Karen?
Especially in 2004.
Yeah, exactly. So
Number 2. Love this one. 3 people beat a zombie with snooker cubes. This is done in time to music and is meant for comedic purposes.
Yep.
So apparently Karen knows it's supposed to be funny, but it was not funny to Karen.
It wasn't amusing to Karen, even with the Queen score playing in the background, which I love that song, by the way.
me too.
I absolutely love that song.
So number 1. Hit us with number 1.
Number 1, parental guide, written by Karen, to keep you from watching this movie. Several men are bitten by zombies. They hold their necks as blood seeps through their fingers. One cannot be seen very well as it is dark, but one can be seen as it is kind of graphic.
In a zombie movie?
Yeah. And this sentence, really, now reading it back, doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. So maybe Karen had just, that red wine had just kind of got in the bloodstream, and maybe she took a little bit of a sleeping pill that night, and it was starting to kick in, and she just typed this last one out. But
she did. She heard that line right before she fell asleep. You got red on you.
You got red on you, and I'm going on the internet.
So,
which, yeah.
Moving. I love that. So, rounding out then, as you know, we love to rank it on the Goldblum scale. I think I know where both of us are going to go with this, though. But Adam, where do you give Shaun of the Dead on your Goldblum ranking?
I'm giving it 5 Goldblums.
Same here, 5 Goldblums.
5 Goldblums, yes. 5, yes. 5 Goldblums. Guess what I'm selling today? All around.
So let us know in the comments. Do you agree with us on Shaun of the Dead? Do you think it's a perfect movie like we do? Like I said, we watch this multi times a year, and also the Cornetto trilogy. But
I just watched it about 3 weeks ago, actually.
So if you don't like it, let us know in the comments. Like I said, we'd like to hear why. But as usual, make sure you like and subscribe to our video and share it with your friends.
That's right. And get the red off of you and stay spooky. And remember.
Let me know when it's on.
There we go, buddy.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
It's on.
We're set to pop.
Oh, it's on?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on. Ghost of the Most, man.